All right. You know, the thing I was thinking as this is our, I think might be our last time together, is how many times have I seen Rex die by snails and Jay by pee? And it's been a while, all the way from the beginning pitch that I made to all the storyboard versions, to all the edits and animatics and animation. Yes, we've seen these characters die a lot, and it's still funny every time. But yeah, it's always a mixed feeling when you reach the end of all of that energy and excitement and working towards the goal, and now we've reached it. And I always feel like this is the moment next week when this goes online, that it's kind of like you've done your best job raising a baby into a kid, into hopefully an adult, and then you let them go off into the world, and then everyone's going to let you know what they think of your kid. And you know, as parents, you always feel very responsible when people say, boy, you know, or feel great when they say, boy, your kid is a really great kid, right? So we're going to put it out in the world now. We're going to see what everyone thinks about it. But no, it's been so awesome. Everything has come together, and you're going to hear from the crew talking about the color grading we've been doing this week, the sound design, the promos, the end credits. But I couldn't be more proud, and I'll end up thanking everybody at the premiere later. But it's I'm very proud of this. So let's go right into it. Hjalti, you want to share what is this? We dress the same again?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Yeah. For the most part, for me, there were a lot of smaller things, but I think the big thing was, I don't know what you're talking about. Not I think the biggest thing for me was working on the poster, the main poster, and this is after some tweaks. Yeah, I think it ended up basically there. But the cool thing is, I did a screen capture of my screen while I was working on it. So I have I can make a time lapse of making the entire thing. But I had to split it into a lot of small things, because as you're working, something comes up. Okay, let me pause the screen record. And then you just end up with a lot of files. So that's the thing I am currently exporting.
You should, maybe we can see the art, so we see where the Sprite name will go and everything.
It started from that, by the way, a cube, just so you know, I intentionally la 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 la, putting all the characters in there. La 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 la. This is the most boring part of it, where you actually place everything. And I'm gonna skip ahead. La la la, putting all of these. Oh my God, it's so much fun. It takes forever to do this. And now I'm skipping ahead. Now they're like this. Whoa, what? No, these are light files, very light. I think yeah. Besides that, I put together the promos with kind of sound effects and all of that stuff. I think well, okay, most of the heavy lifting here is done by obviously the rendering team, but I put the sound in. Okay, it's that stuff. We got this guy. And then Phil. I really like the incorporating the T in October there, from the logo. It's cool. Yeah, that's from Andy. These will be a hit.
Yes.
And then the splash the splash screen for Blender that Rick worked on and did a great job. I was asked to go in there and do some little tweaks. So I think this is what he had, and then I was going into another person's file and doing some tweaks here and there. So just giving a little bit more space, and then trying to get more negative space in there here and there. And this is really boring work. But anyway, that's my week. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this week we delivered the final frames, rendering and compositing to the grading studio. It's some grading, but I want to use this occasion to thank everyone in the art team for delivering all the frames, for making it. So, and also Paul for making sure that we have, like, we got it all delivered in time and everything is fine. So thank you guys. So yeah, so this week we yeah, these are the frames. This is also what Paul did as well. So this is his add-on that just makes a contact sheet of the entire film. It stops after a while, but it plays all the shots. Yeah, so you go like from the beginning. This is like all the shots at once. So it's very cool to see the film this way. Yeah.
It would be 90 minutes long.
Anyway, I think this is super cool. So yeah, I'm also gonna show Simon's stuff because he played a large part on delivering the frames error-free and obsessing over every little bits of noise and then removing it. So I'm gonna show his stuff later, but I'll just go my stuff really quickly. Just to repeat it, like what Matthew said, we did grading this week, 1 day and a half at Storm. It was super nice. We brightened up the day and the nighttime shots. We made it as punchy as possible. We saturated as much as the spectrum would allow to make sure everyone sees a beautiful film at the very end. And yeah, so then also what happened this week was this one more thing, that we have this intro shot and we needed that cloud was overlapping the text. So of course I couldn't re-render anything. So the way that I fixed it was using my favorite effect, which is the displacement node. And by tracking the cloud and using a mask to kind of offset that cloud in 2D space as the camera was going down. And to track that motion was a little bit complicated, but this is one of the dirty cheating things that has been going on. Just to make sure that you know, the text is perfectly centered and all looks nice.
Holy shit. Is that the Matthew's input or?
I won't say, yeah.
You are
I'm the cloud
going
police.
to be Mr. Anti-overlap.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Readability.
So yeah, it's there now, and it was relatively okay to do it. So apart from that, let's see. So I did the lighting for the Square promo stuff. Hjalti showed this already, but I went into all the files. I thought it would be great to not put this in a limbo, so I put in the actual set. Don't know why it's doing this at the center, but no matter. So I lit everything and I comped everything together to make it also more bright and more colorful, and also make it more blue. And yeah, this is just everything. I also asked Simon for help to, and we came up with a solution to make Rex's face sprayed. And then I also worked on this, which Hjalti made a previous version of this, but we wanted to have the online premiere text in the design of the Sprite Fright logo. So I went in and I hand painted the online premiere October 29 text, and I vectorized it and I put it in there and I animated it in Blender. So it's all in the, it's all in the right style.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so then the other stuff I did was not that important, but then I worked on this a little bit, and I didn't have much. I didn't have a lot of time for this. This is what Hjalti came up with a couple of weeks ago, and you know, to have this little logo animation in the beginning, and yeah. Wait. Can I go to the? So this thing basically. Ooh. So so I wanted to turn this into something that looks a little bit more flashy. but also simple enough, because that's the trick with all these flying logos, that they shouldn't look too complicated, and we didn't have enough time for this. So I thought about this a little bit, and I wanted to use this idea basically from Blender, the freedom to create, and I kind of thought about it. Okay, what does it mean to create something? And the best way I can think of it, you have a blank canvas and you start from an idea. And what is the best way to visualize an idea? It's a light turning on. Great. So I thought about this a little bit more, and also this thing was kind of there. Yeah, beautiful. And you can see that this also has the eye and the Traces logo in there, and Traces was also a ray tracing software. So I thought ray tracing light could be interesting. So I thought, okay, a while ago, you might have seen this a couple of years ago. There was this video by MIT that made this camera that captures actually photons moving. It's like super low, super high frame rate, and it basically captures a laser shooting through a bottle. So you can see the speed of light actually, which is super cool. So I thought, okay, how would it be if we turn what Hjalti did into rays of light shooting through a prism or so? Which that's how I ended up with this, which you saw in the beginning of the film. So I'm gonna work. What? Gonna work on what? Gonna work on this for a little bit more, but it's basically like we have the little circle, the Traces logo in the beginning, but then it becomes the Blender logo, and then the rays kind of propagate through the medium of the logo, kind of, and then it reveals the logo. So it's still, I wanted to keep it simple, but cool. Yes, yeah. I don't know if I succeeded, but this was the gist of it, and maybe I overthought this a bit too much, but that is my week. I really want to show Simon's work now, because he's been going overboard with everything, in a good way, of course. He worked in some, yeah. No, he's better now, but unfortunately he can't be here to present his stuff. But first of all, like what he did was mainly fighting the evil demon of noise. And we don't really have noise in our film. We have artifacts that come from denoising. But this was one of the simplest examples, simple because it only meant that we had to re-render the shot again on the farm by excluding the background layer, well, the background fog. Because what we found out that if the denoiser has pixels that are traveling through the screen, and it's using the normals and stuff that's kind of shifting over it, you can see a lot of these swimming artifacts in the background. And basically what Simon found out, that if you render the fog in a separate pass, you don't have that, because you can just composite it on top, it gets denoised separately, and it's all there. So that's what we did. Then there's the more intricate stuff, and this is really mind-blowing, because on the top you can see the frame we had before, the noise, and on the bottom you can see the frame that doesn't have noise. And it's amazing. Simon actually went through a bunch of key shots in the film to get rid of that noise. And the way that he did it, well, first of all, let's see this. Let's see this. This bottom is before. You can see a lot of swimming noise in the moss here, especially in the foreground, and there it's gone. And here in the parade, which is a moment where it's like the highlight of the film, you want to laugh, and you see this thing, and yeah, you get the swimming in the background. It's not quite nice, it's distracting. And here in the final frame, it's gone. So last week he already showed how he does it, basically, because the way that it's done is by basically taking, like he made this awesome breakdown of it, is by taking a Z-depth rendered image, projecting it onto geometry, generating the geometry with geometry nodes, and then just rendering that camera and then recompositing it back in seamlessly. So we actually found a method to in a pixel perfect way, map each pixel of the rendered reference image into 3D space. And then we map it onto the final rendered shot. And it has like some of the outlines and the parallax of the real moving camera. You can see it here. And then composite that back in, and bam, you have an image that is largely noise-free. So another thing that he tried was basically rendering in 4K and then downsampling, rendering in 4K at a higher resolution. But what we found that doesn't really help in most cases. So the noise really comes from the denoising, and we did several tests here, but we found that this doesn't really help. Then there was all the other stuff that Simon did, and I also want to show that because it's his comp work, and Simon spent some extra time getting the shots to look better. In the scratch shot, we always wanted to have a little bit of blood. So Simon went in there and composited this little trickle of blood in here, and he actually hand animated it, and he made sure that the wound looks more wet. And also here in this shot that the red looks more fresh. So now we actually feel Ellie getting cut here. Yeah, and there was the issue that Ellie was coming into the frame, and then the moss was intersecting the notepad, and Simon fixed it. It was done. Yeah, well, we got that note. Then one thing that Simon obsessed over was giving the P the perfect motion blur by using vector motion blur, and Simon made exported, well, he actually made custom vectors for this because none of this had vector data or motion data. So he made sure that all the P shots in the film have beautiful flowing P that looks very liquid and very very liquid. so yeah, that was one of the personal things that he really wanted to fix. Juicy P, yes. And more motion blur things. So there was the pickle jar that I simulated, and I never could quite get the motion blur to work, and Simon added motion blur here, also in compositing using vector motion blur and custom motion vectors. And then in this shot, he always wanted to fix the sideburns of Rex, so were so bright and that were kind of diverging your attention from the snail going into the thing, into the ear. So he also fixed that. And these are some examples of the things that we fixed also last week on the last weekend. There's many more. You'll see those in the films, or you don't see them, depending on how much your attention goes to these things. But anyway, thanks, Simon.
So last week we wrapped up credits and made some progress videos, basically from the initial concepts that Matthew made with some text, and just go through all of the iterations. It's not very precise, but it globally describes what's going on. So these are on the cloud as well. Yes, done. Then yesterday I started working on the splash screen. I can show you guys. So it's a work in progress. So this was what I started with. Let me see. So basically, the lighting here is based on the intro shot from the movie. So basically Andy's lighting, and then I kept iterating. And here Andy made basically a paint over on what might work better. So flipping it, for me it feels better. having the text here. I know Julien doesn't like it. You want to break tradition, but yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'll continue this next week. We can have a long discussion about this. So yeah. The toilet left, toilet right. Yes. Okay, so that's basically it for me, guys.
Last couple weeks, I did lots of boring stuff that has nothing to do with Sprite Fright. Tested a patch from Alexander that apparently bones were kind of glitching out with scale on a very specific orientation. Wait, so where am I showing it? I think you could see it here. Yeah, it flips around when you're slowly moving a bone from one side to the other. And he fixed it, and I think that's committed in master now, so that's nice. This was also causing IKFK snapping to have random scaling sometimes, apparently, or at least it's one of the reasons. So yeah, that's nice. And then what is this? Oh, this is just me testing the patch in Sprite Fright so that nothing is broken. And this is a patch from Hans Goody. He's been making a lot of changes to custom properties, and this time he's making the UI not be from the 90s. So he's finally removing some last pieces of Tone Rosendahl UI, probably. Or maybe not. Maybe it's Campbell UI. Who knows? Either way, it was terrible, and now it's pretty. And here I just found the thing where the thing is flickering, which is probably a separate issue, anyways. And this is just an interesting one where if you are trying to edit a property that is just ginormous, then Blender gets very confused, and that cursor ends up doing that. But hey. It's fine. So that was it for patch testing. And then I also made a giant wall of text about the Gizmo stuff that I presented 3 weeks ago or so. So basically I finished up the Python prototype for the mesh-based armature interaction stuff. And I wrote down all like the inherent limitations and the limitations that would be fixable, but I would need some developer time. Which I don't know if that could be Campbell or Jeroen or Clement or everyone. It's just a few things that could be better, and then we could have this in a way that's not terrible. Because right now I make it look great, but this is actually like borderline unusable because of like 2 small problems that could probably be easily fixed. And then I made some videos.
What's the feedback on it?
Not that much. Mostly, it's perfect. Give it to us. That was about it. I mean, there was something about like how IKFK snapping. If I want to do it automatically, then you have to insert keyframes on the previous frame, which is shit. But it's like, then don't do it. So then I made some CloudRig videos. This one is about bone organization, so nobody cares. There's layers, bone groups, all that stuff, whatever. And then I also wanted to make a video about the troubleshooting system in CloudRig that tells you when things are broken. And then I did, but in between, I spent 2 weeks making the system better and prettier and nicer. So you see here this Rigify log panel. This existed before, but now and so this would give you warnings about things that are bad about your rig when you generate the rig using the CloudRig. And now it gives you more warnings and more buttons to fix things and stuff. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay, I have a bit of an unsorted folder. I don't have much to show. Basically, I did some more tweaks to the print figures. You already saw the Sprite and the Elder Sprite last week. All of those are done and sent for printing, so that's good. And then I also just wrapped up some of the, like gathered more breakdown and making of material just to show off how the sets were created, obviously in this workflow. And especially it's interesting to go through it with the characters. Like, but so there's like so many drawings from the for the characters that are being done, and just collecting all of that is really interesting. And I'm sure that's gonna make for a really nice breakdown. Then I took the layout from Hjalti for the poster and just added a bit more set elements, all the geometry nodes, modeled the tree a bit more, and added branches, leaves, background forest, everything, and just made it a quick test render. Very temp lighting, but I just wanted to see how it looks. More of the colors need to be switched to the night variation, but overall it's kind of looking already pretty good. But yeah, that's essentially my week.
All right. So this week I worked a little more on the media viewer, and we have some cool new stuff. So first of all, this thing remembers now the last folder you selected. So if I go back up, it jumps to the last folder, which is pretty nice. Then it also loads audio, videos with sound. It worked earlier, I promise. Maybe Blender is currently set up in a weird way that it doesn't sort of display.
Go down.
Down?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe more down? Wow.
They have sound?
I don't know. I thought they have sound. Anyways, so if Blender's set up correctly, it should now also load the sound strips, and you can mute the sounds with M, so that like toggles the sound on and off, which is quite nice. What else do we have? Yeah, in full screen mode, if you would press some buttons early, you would get some errors. These are gone, which is also pretty cool. And then we can also now, with a shortcut, browse these ones on the side, which is also cool. What? Exactly, with control, you can browse these ones. And what else do we have? Oh yeah, and if you use your numpad now, you can do this stuff. So pretty much you don't need to use your mouse anymore, which is quite nice. Okay, so other than that, I started the week off with setting our grader friends up with a working DaVinci session, helping them to import our XML and setting all the color spaces and stuff. And yeah, so there was a video call on Monday. Then I did some updates to Hjalti's edit tools, which is pretty much not useful anymore because our production is finished. But I don't know, I'm not even going to explain. Then the first time I wrote a web scraper. This is the first time I did that, which was pretty funny, like a lot of fun actually. And we needed it for because our goal is to make the whole edit public, so everyone can look at our edit in Blender and have all the files. But for that, we needed to kind of clean up our edits and remove those files for which we don't have a license for, or which, I don't know, are have some license we cannot use. So I wrote a little script that looks up all these audio files online, checks their ID, and then checks, hey, this audio file is Creative Commons. This has an attribution license. This has a non-commercial license. And I would sort of save all that information. And by knowing that, I could write another script that makes our edit CC, which would go in all of our edit files here and basically opens it and removes all the sound strips that we don't have a license for. So now I would go through each file and remove all the stuff we don't need. And now the edit is basically public and or ready to be public. And then another script that does the same thing for each of our edit files, but it actually exports an OTIO file, which was a request from the people who develop OpenTimeline.io to have basically an OTIO file for each of our edits, because they're currently working on tools to compare edits and see, hey, what changed from version 1 to version 16. And they're currently developing tools, and for that it's super useful that they have some data. And yeah, that's, well, we are an open source organization here, so that's kind of a cool use case there. Yes, and then I also made a DCP of our movie, which we will see next week in the cinema, at least a test one, and it worked out quite nice. So here I'm playing this DCP, and it looks how it should be looking. And next week we will update this with the newest intro as well as the newest audio, and then export it again. That was my week.
So this week was a lot of asset browser work. So what I'll be showing is also from Julien, and Jeroen also worked on it. And we have a super high-tech tracking system right now in place. Stuck on my computer means it's done. For example, we now have undo. So you can edit your catalogs, you can change real to worlds. It shows a little thingy to indicate that it hasn't been saved yet. You can rename stuff and then you can do undo and redo. It seems like it's playing back slower. It's a 60 FPS font. Yeah. Also, what you can see is that we have a save icon there, so it lights up whenever you have a change, and then you click on it, and the changes are saved to disk. Previously, all the catalog edits would be saved when you save the blend file. Now they're separate. Also, the undo system is separate, so you can change some catalogs, you can go back to modeling, you can undo a change in your catalogs without undoing your modeling work. Then this is a little bit of a multiplayer support that I worked on yesterday and today. So these are two blenders that are working on the same catalog file. So this could be two blenders that you have open, or this could be synchronized between two different computers. So at the top, I've added some new catalogs, and at the bottom, I can now maybe delete something or rename something. Ooh. So I've created some catalogs, then I save. Then at the other blender, I can click refresh. And this will load in the new catalogs, but it will still keep the ones that I modified or created new. So those are still there. And as you can see, they're not in the file because the bottom one still doesn't have them. And then when I save the top one, the whole thing gets saved. And at the bottom, it should also appear again. Like it looks very simple, and this is, I hope, the way people expect it to work, that you don't lose your own stuff when you reload things from somebody else. But it's quite a headache to get it to work right. And I'm really proud that it worked. What you see here is actually these two assets are in the current blend file. And only since the last few days can you see those while you're not in the current blend file library. So this blend file is part of the default library. It contains the worlds of the default library. And you can see it in the default library, which people would expect, but it was a bit of a hassle to get it to work because the browser usually would either show external files or from within this file, and now that's merged. Also, you can see that when you click on it, you can change the name and stuff. And when you click on another one, you can't because it's not part of the current blend file. You can see also the source. You can click on that little icon next to the source to open the blend file that contains the selected asset. And also what I did today is if you delete a catalog, then all the assets that are contained in it still stick around, of course. So you don't delete assets by deleting a catalog. They still show up in the all catalog. But they also now show up in unassigned. And previously, this would only show assets that really had no catalog assigned. Now you can see they were previously assigned to the materials catalog. Like you can still see here, asset catalog, simple name, materials. They were once upon a time assigned to the materials, but that's gone. That was just deleted. So they're now shown in unassigned. And of course, when you undo, everything is back to normal and you can click on the materials and they show up there. That's my week.
Today, we announced a little update to our online platform, which is now available under the studio.blender.org. Let's see how this works. You cannot yell to it. Oh, okay.
Because I'm happy.
Studio. Because I typed it all uppercase. So
Doesn't matter. No.
it matters. Okay, so we have a Blender Studio platform. So special thanks to Anna and Mike who worked on this to make this happen. There's a lot of technical and design work involved. We also quite some communication work involved. It was really important to have this announced and communicated before the release of Sprite because we really hope that as the film goes out, there will be a clearer association between who is making the film and how to support who's making a film, how to get involved and help us, and also why we are doing this, and to really make this strong connection between Blender Studio and what the Blender project does. So I'm very happy that we have this done, and I wanted to thank the guys for it. Next week, we are going to start pushing out all the promo material for the film. And on Thursday, we have our pre-premiere at the iFilm. And then on Friday, we didn't settle on this 100%, so we will probably go again for a YouTube live premiere again. So people will be able to enjoy the film in full 720p resolution and chat while watching the film, which is exactly how we intended the film to be experienced. And after that, it will be available at a native resolution, and everyone can actually watch it without talking to people. So, but I think it will be very interesting to see if people will actually be able to type something as they watch the film. Because I was watching it again now as for the probably 1,000th time. And I'm like, wow, if somebody's watching it for the first time, are they really going to be able to type? Because it's so captivating. I am really, really curious to see.
They can't pause.
I don't no, but
You can pause the live stream.
you can, but like, I really don't know what's going to happen. So anyway, we maybe do it, we maybe not, but I think it would be really fun to do. So this is actually our last weekly for this production. There will be maybe some videos of making off of the event that we do on Thursday, and maybe on Friday we share something. But this is like the official production wrap for the film.
Is it a wrap?
So it's not really. I don't know how you say it, because like it's gonna be a wrap, like, but then it's a.
Credits have to be rendered.
It's that's the thing that is missing still. So it's like it's a semi-wrap. But this is definitely our last weekly. So I want to thank again all the artists and all the developers and all the Blender Studio supporters who enabled us to make this. So thanks a lot. This was amazing. Thank you.